This video is going to give you an overview of what literature reviews should do, the stages of undertaking one, and the structure of one. So what does a literature review do? You're identifying relevant work that's been done by other people in the field of research on a topic. So you're finding literature already published by other experts and researchers in a particular field. You want to identify patterns and conflicting evidence in the research. So we want to be able to compare and contrast the published literature on this topic and look for patterns. You also want to critically evaluate the research. So as well as evaluating the actual findings and what the literature is showing us, we want to have a look at the actual quality of the research, how that research has been carried out, identify strengths and weaknesses. And we also want to identify possible gaps in the research, so areas that haven't been researched in as much depth within that particular topic field, and potentially further research that needs to be carried out. A literature review may also set the scene and provide context for your research. So some literature reviews are done as a chapter as part of a wider research project where you're carrying out your own research, and therefore you're also identifying gaps in that research in order to justify your inquiry and the research that you're carrying out yourself. So the stages of the literature review. The first one is the problem formulation. And this is where you decide what your literature review is going to be on, you decide the question or title, the area that you're going to focus on. You then need to do the literature search. So this is where you actually undertake the searching and finding of your evidence, and this will be potentially different depending on subject areas and types of sources that you need to find. You then need to evaluate the literature. So what this means is choosing the evidence that you're going to include in your review from the list of search results you've got. Then we have analysis and interpretation. So this is where you're critiquing the evidence. Analysis means taking apart. So you're looking at this evidence in more detail, interpreting, understanding it, and critiquing it. And then the final stage is the synthesis and organisation. So this is the write-up of your review. So synthesis means putting back together. So you're considering each source individually from an analytical perspective, but you're combining them to form the final literature review structure. So in terms of the structure of a literature review then, you're synthesising these different pieces of literature together, and what we mean by that is you won't just be examining and discussing each piece of individual literature separately, you will be discussing them in comparison to each other. So this means our organisation is likely to be using specific themes related to that topic, where each paragraph may be a different theme, and we will compare and contrast different pieces of literature in the context of that particular theme. You also need to think about the context of the question, the title of your literature review. So ensuring that you're always bringing back the literature that you're using to that context of your particular question and focus of your title. And you need to ensure that the discussion is critical and not just descriptive. So not just reporting what the findings of the particular literature is, but doing that further critical discussion around them. When starting a literature review, the first thing I would recommend doing is a scoping search. So this is an initial search of the literature on a topic of interest for a few reasons. Firstly, to check if your topic is viable. What we mean by this is there enough literature out there to actually be able to do a literature review on this topic? Sometimes you may pick something where it's very, very focused and niche, or very, very up to date, and there just isn't enough research published on this topic. Your initial searching also allows you to situate what you already know about the topic and potentially identify some new lines of inquiry that you hadn't actually thought about already. It will allow you to narrow down a broader topic to a focused idea. So if you start off with an area of interest that's too wide for a literature review and you need to narrow it down to a more focused question, an initial scoping search will allow you to see what's out there and help you narrow down your idea. And you can also start thinking about the themes that you'll need to incorporate into the final structure.